Shalom, dear friends. Tonight is the beginning of the 23rd day of ER, the Hebrew month of ER 5784. And I want to talk about the Sabbath and the land of Israel and belonging. Yes, I want to talk about the Sabbath and the land of Israel and a sense of belonging. What's the connection? In the days before I moved to Israel, where I now live, when I lived in the diaspora, I would ask myself, as a diaspora Jew, what do I want of the state of Israel? What do I want? And essentially, I wanted the state of Israel to hold the fort, to keep Israel safe, so that if I wanted to visit there or I wanted to move there someday, it would be there for me. And I assume that that's what many Jews in the diaspora today also want. And I'm sure they're disappointed when, not to mention very saddened and distressed by the tragedies that have happened to Israel and the Jews here this year. But in addition to that, they're also disappointed that Israel is not able or failed to protect themselves as well as we'd like. And they may ask themselves, what can they do? What can they do for Israel? And that's where I want to bring in the Sabbath and suggest that even if you're not yet prepared to move to Israel, which of course is something we should all hope to do, but by connecting to the Sabbath, you can also strengthen Israel. Let me explain how. So, right now we're reading in the last two portions of the book of Leviticus, and they're called Bahar Bechototai, the names of the two portions. And Parshas Bahar starts by talking about the sabbatical year that was given at Mount Sinai. And Rabbi Zev Chaim Lifshitz makes a nice explanation as to why these are juxtaposed, the mitzvah of Shemitah, of the sabbatical year, the 7th year where you don't farm the land in Israel, and Har Sinai, where all the mitzvahs of the Torah were given. And he explains like this: there's two basic, among them, many basic needs of human beings are two that are in a pair, or they're a dichotomy, they're opposing pair, as it were, and that is freedom and belonging. We all need a sense of freedom, and we also need a sense of belonging. The desert, where the Torah is given, represents freedom. There's no distractions there, and that's the ideal place to receive the Torah. In the land of Israel, that's where the laws of Shemitah and Jubilee year, the 50th year, when all slaves go free and all land goes back to original family owners, those are the hardest mitzvahs to do, perhaps, when you're in Israel, when you're in the midst of all your business and everything, to stop doing all your agriculture for a year, or to free all your servants in the 50th year. Those are the hard things to do, but he says they're given in the desert where it's not so hard. In theory, you can accept them. In fact, that's what happened all the years in the desert. The children of Israel were getting excited about how they're going to go into that land of Israel. And they'll be able to keep the sabbatical years and the Jubilee year. Just like now, we're counting the days between Passover and Shavuot. We're up to the 38th day of the 50 days until we get to Passover. It's an internal thing. You're getting ready. All the time you're getting ready inside. So just like that, in the desert, children of Israel were getting ready someday when they have the land of Israel to keep the sabbatical years and to keep the Jubilee year. When we keep the Sabbath today, it also connects us to that. It connects us to that sense of both freedom, because we're freed from our weekday cares and we can focus, and it also gives a sense of belonging, a sense that we belong to each other as a people, and we belong to God. The Sabbath reminds us that our lives essentially are on trust to do certain things with them. God gave us these lives to do certain things, and it reminds us of that trust and that responsibility. Similarly, the sabbatical year in the land of Israel reminds us that the entire land was given to us on trust, and we're the trustees, and as trustees, we have to take, if you know anything about trust law, the trustee has to give proper management of the trust property. You can't just let other people take away parts of the trust property. He has to use it properly. And I think if you look at the whole history of the Zionist movement, this has been one of the central themes and controversies among the Jewish people. Are we actually going to take responsibility of the entire land of Israel that Hashem wants us to take responsibility for or not? If you look back in the early years before the founding of the state, this was the debate. Should the British say, well, let's partition the land? And so some of the Jews said, okay, that's good. And others said, no, you have to have all the land of Israel. You can't say it's not something you can divide up. And that's continued to this day. I saw here an interesting thing recently in Abba Eban, who was a Israeli diplomat, ambassador to UN for many years, foreign minister. This is his biography. He writes in here about the Sinai campaign in 1956. Here's Nasser, the president of Egypt, who attacked us many times. And as you may know, in 1956, when Nasser was attacking, sending Fayadin, people over the border through Gaza into Israel to attack and kill people, and it was trying to close the Straits of Tiran to Israeli shipping. So Israel got together with the French and the British, and they had a campaign against Egypt, the 1956 Sinai campaign, in October of 1956. And it says here, Abu Ibn writes that before the campaign, in the Israeli cabinet, one of the ministers asked Ben-Gurion, who was the prime minister of Israel, asked him, what's the objective? What's the ultimate objective of the invasion? Let us assume it goes off as planned. Do we wish to annex the Sinai Peninsula or any part of it? And what will happen to the Gaza Strip? And Ben-Gurion implied, I do not know the outcome of Sinai. The main thing we're interested in is the Straits of Eilat and the Red Sea. So we can have contact with Asia and East Africa. The main thing, as far as I'm concerned, is freedom of navigation. As far as the Gaza Strip is concerned, I feel that it will be embarrassing for us. Meaning it will be embarrassing, he thinks, to control the Gaza Strip. If I believed in miracles, I would pray for it to be swallowed up into the sea. All the same, we must eradicate the Fayadin bases and secure peaceful lives for the inhabitants of the bordered areas. So you see, even in 56, Ben-Gurion was just wishing that Gaza would go away. Even though it's in the land of Israel, even though that's where our forefathers Abraham and Isaac lived in Gerar, it's part of the land of Israel. There have been Jewish communities there over the centuries. But he just, because it was filled with all these Arabs, he just wished it would go away, it would just fall into the sea. And in fact, in 1956, Gaza was captured by Israel, and it was held for several months. But then, as part of the withdrawal, the Israeli troops left Gaza after several months, and then it was again under Egyptian control until 1967, when Israel took it again. And then 30 years ago, again, this idea that we can't take control, we can't be the proper trustees of all the trust. The Israeli government, the Oslo Accords, again gave away control of Gaza. And if that hadn't been done, all the time it was under Israeli control, it was relatively under control and fine, and the Israelis could even visit there. But since it went to the foreign control of the Palestinian Authority, since then we've had all these problems, and since 2005 it was taken over by 2006 it was taken over by Hamas. So what I'm trying to say is that if we had this sense of belonging, that this is our trust, then we would take responsibility, and then there would be much less problems. So how is this related to the Sabbath? So it's sort of like conservation of spiritual energy. You can build up, you can sort of take trust and belonging and put it somehow in a spiritual battery. When a Jew anywhere, any place in the world keeps the Sabbath, so he builds up his trust in Hashem, he builds up his sense of belonging to his people. And that's something which can be extrapolated and converted to a sense of belonging in the land of Israel, to wanting to keep the greater Sabbath, the Sabbath, the seventh year, to be able to take responsibility for the entire trust for the whole land of Israel. Gaza should be under Israeli sovereignty. That's the best thing for everyone. All the land of Israel should be under the Israeli sovereignty. That's the best thing for the Jews and the Arabs living there. And when we are willing to, when we, the Jews, first of all, are willing to accept that and live by it, then we'll have the blessings here that we hope for, and the people who live in peace here that we hope for. So that's my suggestion. If you want to do something to help the land of Israel, connect more to the Sabbath and that sense of belonging, a sense of freedom that the Sabbath brings to us, and then we'll have more sense of belonging to our people, and our people have more sense of belonging to our land, and more sense of the trust that we're called upon to fulfill with it. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.